Welcome everyone again to another version of The Lightest and Best, where we look at a variety of offerings from a variety of manufacturers, and we will look at their lightest and best offering. And today we're looking at the knives made by William Henry. We're looking at the Westcliff B07 in carbon fiber. Just an absolutely gorgeous knife. You can see the anodized titanium clip and the gold-plated fittings and bearings there with the tungsten-coated steel blade. It's a beautiful knife. William Henry is a high-end knife maker from McMinnville, Oregon. He makes lightweight, expensive knives. Currently, on their website, they have a B12 selling for $45,000. It has some gold plating and intricate carving on the handle. This has gold-plated fittings and pivots, but it has a different kind of gold plating on a little fish. And then it has Damascus steel for its blade. This is just a regular steel. Well, William Henry is a knife maker that offers a variety of offerings. This is the B7, and the letter stands for the type of locking mechanism. This is a button lock, and there's the button, the silver one. As you can tell, it just drops freely. And then they also have the T, which is a frame lock, which was some of their earlier offerings. And then recently they came out with an E, which is for their EDC offerings, which is a less expensive knife that uses less expensive materials. They use everything from, this is in a carbon fiber. They also use mammoth tooth. So if you want a knife that has a handle made out of a dinosaur's tooth that's extinct, William Henry is the place to go to for that. The number afterwards, this is a B7, has to do with the size and shape of the blade. For example, the B2 is a 1.75-inch drop point shape. The B04 is a 2-inch drop point. The B05 is a 2.63 drop point. The B06 is a 2.5-inch drop point. The B07, which is what I have, is a Westcliff that's a 3-inch blade. The B09 is a 2.13 drop point. The B10 is a 2.75 drop point, and the B11 is a 2.5-inch Persian-shaped blade. The B12 is a spear point that's 3.06 inches. So let's talk about the blade length on this one. The blade length on this one is 3 inches, and the handle length is 4 inches to give a total knife length of 7 inches. The weight on the knife is a svelte 1.2 ounces, and that puts it in an elite category. The knife that I think of that's a very popular knife that is similar weight of 1.2 ounces is the Dragonfly, made by Spyderco. As you can tell, the Dragonfly is a much smaller knife. I'll have other comparisons here. Here is a Hinderer XM18 3-inch. And as you can tell, they're similar in size. We have a Benchmade Mini Griptilian, which is a little bit smaller than the Westcliff B07 in carbon fiber. We also have a Spyderco Delica, which as you can tell is just maybe a little bit longer, very comparable in size. So there you have some of the size comparisons of commonly owned knives. Let's talk about the blade though. The blade is made from an ATS 34 with a tungsten coating. As you can tell, it's in a Westcliff shape. It has a nice mirror polished on that. Nice mirror polished edge on that. The method of deployment is by thumb stud. I'll go ahead and press the button lock to close it. As you can tell, it deploys very nicely with the thumb stud and closes very nicely with the button lock. You can also press the button lock and just flip it out like that, and you can close it with a flip also. The handle is made of carbon fiber, is very smooth and very sleek. The pivot is by washers, and I believe they're nylon washers. And the lock is by a button lock. It works very nicely. As you can tell, there is a indentation in the blade, and then whenever it comes, there's a little indentation from the button lock that pops out, and to disengage it, you push in on the button and the blade falls away freely. The pocket clip is a surface-mounted anodized clip. It's a little bit blue, a little bit purple. We'll call it purple. And the ergonomics on the knife are very good. It Feels very good in the hand. You can easily get a 4-finger grip, and then you have a little bit of space left over. I would like to do a comparison, however, with one of the knockoff makers, A.G. Russell. This is an A.G. Russell knockoff of the William Henry. This is in the shape of a T06. It has a 2.5-inch drop point blade, and it, instead of having the button lock, has the liner lock. As you can see, you have a little liner you press there. And, well, anyway, the A.G. Russell has very similar carbon fiber. I don't know if you can even tell the difference between them. They're very similar. I think it's the exact same carbon fiber, as a matter of fact. A.G. Russell uses an inferior steel. They have 8CR13 MOV steel, whereas the William Henry uses a more expensive steel, the ATS-34, with a tungsten coating. The light knife of the A.G. Russell is a little bit lighter. This is 1 ounce, and the William Henry is 1.2 ounces. Obviously, the A.G. Russell is a smaller model and has a 2.5-inch blade as opposed to the 3-inch Westcliff. So what are my impressions of the William Henry B07 Westcliff? I think it's very expensive. Over $500 for this blade is very expensive. I love it in that it's light. It's 1.2 ounces for a 3-inch blade. Very few knife manufacturers can boast that blade-to-weight ratio. And I like the blade geometry. Since it's a very thin blade, it slices very well. Geometry is its friend. But I'm here to say that, really, the king has no clothes. The materials don't really merit the price. Some knife makers can sell the sizzle instead of the steak. Really, I know that these steel fittings are gold-plated, but how many grams of gold do you think really fit onto those steel fittings? And besides, I'd probably rather have titanium fittings than steel fittings anyway. And this runs on nylon washers instead of ball bearings for the pivots, and I'm not a fan of that. Now, if you're the person that really wants a William Henry, I would go with the B07. First of all, the button lock is much superior to the liner lock, and it's a higher quality than the E-series. And it is a beautiful, sleek knife, and the carbon fiber is much more important to have, I think, as far as the lightness. I personally don't have a desire to have a knife that costs $45,000 and has gold inlays on the handle, or a knife that's made out of a dinosaur tooth like the mammoth bone. So if you want a William Henry, I would recommend the B07.